You might think a school in outer space that instructs through zero-gravity laser tag and video games sounds like a dream come true. But for Ender Wiggin, it's hell, Alcatraz, and middle school all rolled into one. Can a 7-year-old boy survive a boot camp where the faculty seems to be doing everything in its power to make sure he doesn't fit in? What makes an effective leader? And how do you defeat the giant in the Giant's Drink level of free-play fantasy game? Let's find out as we continue our discussion of Ender's Game on ReLiterated, the only lowbrow book club podcast approved by the Hegemon for public consumption. Welcome to ReLiterated, the lowbrow book club of three grown-ass men reading the children's books popular in the 1990s, but with 2020's hindsight. Fair warning, we use language too mature for kids, analysis too immature for literary scholars, and ignorance too profound to be inoffensive to everyone. We also discuss our books in great detail, and we do not leave out spoilers, so if you haven't read the book or you're unfamiliar with the story, it's a good idea to have those read before listening. You can interact with us and enjoy all kinds of bonus content by searching ReLiterated on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, and Facebook, or you can ask us questions, suggest future episodes, or tell us what we've missed by sending us an email at reliterated@gmail.com. I'm Andy, and I am the commander of the nuclear-powered polar bear army.
I'm Harold, and I am the commander of Scorpion Army. I didn't know I needed to add devices.
And I'm Josh, and I'm the leader of the Orca Army, because orcas are assholes of the ocean.
Okay, fine. Maybe I'm not nuclear-powered polar bears. Just, we're the polar bear army.
Yeah, my orcas are gonna fuck your polar bears up, dude.
Right? And the Scorpion will be able to get a pat on his foot, you know. And plus, polar bears are endangered.
Nobody expects the Scorpion. This is episode 19, our second part of Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. And where we left off, are we going to jump right into it? Anybody want to tell us about your week, how things are going?
It's been a week.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Yeah. Caught the season finale of Loki. Excited that they're actually going to do a second season on that one, because I know they're not doing that with the other shows.
Right. I haven't seen the finale yet, but I did get that news that they're doing a second season.
Let me tell you what happens.
Okay.
No! I've only watched 3 episodes.
Well, you're halfway there.
I know.
It turns out Loki is Thanos.
Whoa!
But yeah, no, haven't had anything all too exciting happen this week so far. I watched Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction because I had read an article about Tarantino films earlier this week, and so I watched those films and I thought they're still pretty good. But specifically, the reason I watched Pulp Fiction is because there's a scene where Mia, played by Uma Thurman, is talking to John Travolta's character Vince Vega, and she explains the pilot to the TV show that she was in. Okay, and I don't know if you guys remember this scene specifically.
Yeah,
I didn't. So she starts describing a show called Fox Force 5.
Right.
It was 5 deadly women, all with specific abilities, and the character she played was the deadliest woman in the world with a knife. And then, you know, obviously some 15 years later, she played the protagonist of Kill Bill, where it was the Snakes, the Deadly Viper Gang, but she was the deadliest woman in the world with a sword.
Yeah, I love how they brought that back.
Yeah. So people aren't sure if it was that Tarantino always had that idea and kind of put it in as a foreshadowing Easter egg, or if he was playing with that idea and it just kind of grew from there into something he wanted to eventually do.
I believe I heard the story that that's kind of where the idea for Kill Bill originated. The Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, or Divas. came out of that idea, the Fox Force 5.
Okay.
That Quentin and Uma Thurman kind of worked on that idea, and yeah, that's kind of how Kill Bill was born.
It's kind of cool thinking about it, because I mean, Pulp Fiction's one of his first films that had notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some Easter eggs, some little details in Reservoir Dogs that were interesting that I wanted to watch. I don't know, got interested, wanted to watch it. I always have a hard time watching Reservoir Dogs, though, because even though it happens off camera, when he cuts off that cop's ear with the razor knife, or the God, I can't take that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure. Tarantino, he was more interesting back in the day as a filmmaker. I've kind of lost a little bit of interest in seeing his stuff and with his more recent movies, but yeah, I was big into like the Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill and Reservoir Dogs, and I don't know. I was only able to watch Django Unchained once just because of how brutal it got and how tough it was to watch.
There's a certain scene I can't watch that movie because of a certain scene. So
The Hateful Eight's pretty good too.
It was so long though.
It is long. That's why it's better to watch it. Netflix has it in a version where they have 4 episodes that you can watch it as, so you can watch it in an episodic matter.
Oh, that's much better.
But I mean, Tarantino's films being better back in the day is almost exactly like Limp Bizkit, right? Limp Bizkit.
You know, I hear everybody saying that.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Limp Bizkit comes out with their first album, everybody loves it. They come out with the second album, they're thinking it's pretty good, you know, and then as it goes on, they just become, you know, their popularity kind of interjects with their art, and then you look back at their old art. The difference being that when you look back at Quentin Tarantino's old art, it's still good. That's the only difference between Tarantino and Limp Bizkit.
What you mean, chocolate starfish doesn't exactly hold up.
Oh, not as compared to like Faith or Break Stuff.
I mean, Nookie is still Nookie.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that, you know, off the first album, I couldn't name any song but Faith, which is a cover. So, you know, maybe they're not so much like Quentin Tarantino.
Well, the last movie I watched this week, I watched the B Movie. And it actually wound up being kind of interesting. You don't hear it talked about a whole lot, but that goes to some strange places, man.
It does. Yeah, the one with Jerry Seinfeld you're talking?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that movie's super messed up.
There's a few movies like that. Everyone's seen A Bug's Life, but have you ever watched Ants?
I think I saw it one time.
Yeah, it's got Sylvester Stallone and Woody Allen.
Woody Allen is the
That's
the
why
lead,
I didn't like it, because even back then I thought Woody Allen was skeezy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's skeezy, but the movie itself, I saw it a few times, and that it was, I don't know, it definitely had more adult stuff going on that you didn't necessarily catch as a kid. It's interesting.
I forget what the plot kind of arc of Ants was. I know A Bug's Life was like the Seven Samurai type thing,
right?
But I forget what he was out to find in Ants.
Yeah, I can't remember myself.
We'll have to bing it.
Did you watch any movies this week, Josh? I know you didn't watch any Beverly Hills Cop movies.
Yeah, I didn't want to watch that last night because I've been working a lot of overtime this week, so I haven't had a lot of time to watch movies. Last weekend I traveled to Oregon to see my father, and it was actually a really good trip. I went with my brother, and we stopped at Heaven on Earth, which is a little place that claimed to have the best cinnamon rolls in the world. I don't know if they're the best, but they're up there. Oh man, it was very good. And I got to stop at my favorite donut shop of all time, Voodoo Donuts. I got to go to the one in Eugene. Shout out to them for hooking me up with the biggest donuts that they had there, it seemed. And yeah, it was a good trip. And I've been watching Holy Moly and Lego Masters. So those are the shows that I recommend watching. Holy Moly this year it's not as funny, but the wipeout aspect is hyped up this year. So I'm enjoying all the pain that these people are going through. And Lego Masters is it's a bunch of people playing with Legos, which I love Legos. So, and these people are amazing. Have you guys seen this show?
Holy moly.
Well, either Holy Moly or Lego Masters. Lego Masters is just amazing. Crazy how the things that these people can make out of Legos.
I have seen some pretty wild Lego creations, though.
Yeah, episode 2, they had to make things that exploded really well. This one team made a frog, like a circular frog out of Legos. I was like, how do people do that? I just don't get it. My brain doesn't work that way.
You just have to put the Legos in the right spot and it'll turn into stuff.
Yeah, I know. All I ever did was made dune buggies when I was a kid.
My brother and I made guns all the time.
I'm rather useless at Legos unless they have like the step-by-step directions and putting together the sets.
Bruce loves Legos, and so we'll play with them sometimes. He makes all kinds of creations and comes out and explains them to me. They don't always look like what he says they are, but I believe him.
Imagination, man. I wish I still had one that was that good.
So, ants. Z, the worker ant, strives to reconcile his own individuality with the communal work ethic of the ant colony. He falls in love with the ant princess, Bala. Z strives to make social inroads and then must save the ant colony from the treacherous scheming of the evil General Mandible that threatened to wipe out the entire worker population.
It's all sounding pretty familiar. I just don't remember how this general threatened to wipe them all out.
I mean, sure, you got Woody Allen, right? But you have Sylvester Stallone, Sharon Stone, Danny Glover, Jennifer Lopez, Gene Hackman, and Christopher Walken in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just look up how many stars were in Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Just because a lot of stars are in it doesn't mean it's a good movie.
I think we should watch Ants again.
we got a backlog of book-related movies that we've got to watch.
Yeah, that we have to watch for the like what, a few episodes from now.
Ooh, I already watched Ender's Game, but I will watch it again because I bought it.
Right.
So
I was under the impression we're all going to watch these together and stuff.
And discuss.
We have yet to have watched them together. I watched it and told Bruce that he's got to start that training next year.
Right. He's already 7. He's falling behind.
Yep. And now we've been, we chase each other around the house trying to put monitors in each other's necks now.
Nice. And he's only kicked you in the solar plexus and broken your nose twice, right?
I'll tell you what, man. These kids, when they gang up on me, I don't know.
Your days are numbered, my friend.
The only reason that they win any of the fights is because I don't actually hit back, so...
If you don't stop them, if you don't have a decisive victory, they're just going to keep picking on you.
Yeah, I know it.
That's the theme that we're going for here with Ender's Game.
And the future fights before they even start.
Yep.
They know better. I control the candy.
And the television.
Have a stranglehold on the candy supply.
Yep. At this point, Ender is getting ready to launch into space, which is where the battle school is. And they have their little discussion at the beginning here between the two officers, where they're trying to explain how they want Ender to follow the orders, but at the same time, they don't want him to fall in line with the way things work. Because they want him to feel as though he can work a way around the rules. That's what they're looking for out of him, is to be able to think around the rules.
To adapt to anything that comes up.
So their plan is to isolate him, to make him the subject of people hating him or at least not wanting to help him.
Because they want to break him, basically. It's because he's sweet, but at the same time, he has that killer edge in him. That's why he took care of Stilson the way he did. So that's they said it. He's like, that's where you're mistaken. He's even sweeter than he looks. But don't worry, we'll purge that in a hurry. Sometimes I think you enjoy breaking these little geniuses. There is an art to it, and I'm very, very good at it. But enjoy? Well, maybe. That's dark. That reminds me of Walter White at the end, when he's just like, I'm good at it, and I enjoy it. That's why I do it.
So the key of training that killer edge in Ender is to isolate him from everyone around him so that he can rise to the top more easily, I suppose.
And I mean, it kind of gets off to one of those starts for him right away. They get ready to launch, and they're walking up, and they're being seen by the news. They're like videotaping them as they're walking in, you know, because it's all propaganda. It reminds me of like Starship Troopers, kind of how no matter what's happening, it's always war propaganda for them. And he imagines himself talking to the announcer and telling them, you know, oh, I'm pretty hungry. And they ask if he's eaten. And he said, you know, they don't let you eat for 20 hours before launch. But all of it ends up being imagination. He kind of like laughs to himself. Everybody else is kind of laughing and smiling, and he finally laughs to himself, but it's for the reason of his own little in-joke that he's having. So even right here, he's already separated from everybody else. They're talking, laughing with each other, and he's laughing at his own thing in his own mind. And he kind of wants to like wave at the camera and say goodbye to Valentine, but he already knows that they would censor that out because these kids at 6 years old are meant to be like stoic heroes. Everybody's got to view them as these ready to do whatever it takes for the human race type people.
They can't show emotion. They can't miss their mom and dad. There can't be any kind of they can't be seen enjoying this stuff because they're humanity's great hope.
Right.
So even though they're kids, they're like 6, 7-year-old kids, I suppose, is about their age range that they're going up. Like it's all very carefully crafted, and yeah. So
they're on the ship and they're getting their places, and Graf comes around and starts talking with Ender. Ender, they kind of joke with each other, and Ender smiled. He felt comfortable with Graf. Graf was good. Yeah.
Right.
So...
And Graf is playing that part kind of like right now. At this moment, he's acting like he's Ender's friend to make him feel comfortable to get up there. But it's almost immediate how quickly he turns to, all right, now you're fucking stuck here in space with me, bitch.
But not overtly.
No. But it's clear that he's not his friend. He's not his buddy.
Yeah, because Ender laughs. He was thinking of Graf in Zero Gravity and the things, so he started laughing to himself, and then Graf's voice was sharp and angry. What do you think's so funny, Wiggin?
By now they're already up in space, by the way. Like,
yeah, they've launched.
Brief paragraph about launch, how it wasn't so bad.
Right.
They went by the point of fearing that this is going to be the first failed launch since the early days of the shuttle. So it was no big deal actually taking off and getting into space. But now Graf comes in, and because there's zero gravity and all the kids are strapped into their seats, he comes in and kind of, from their perspective, is hanging from the ceiling. So it makes Ender kind of laugh at the sight of it.
This paragraph kind of foreshadows how Ender thinks a little bit differently than everyone else, because he sees the situation and he imagines it as a game. So he sees Graf in all these different positions. He sees him hanging upside down. He sees him coming out from the side because gravity could go any way that Ender wanted it to in his mind. And that is what made him laugh, is the fact that he could make Graf do all these shenanigans and nothing was stopping him from doing it. So it's just showing how his mind works a little bit differently than others right there.
Right, because he laughs. Graf asks him, what's so funny? And he was sharp and angry about it. And then Ender tells him why, because he was imagining him the way he was moving around in null gravity. And he's like, yeah, I think to you it might be funny. Is it funny to anyone else here? And everybody's like, no. And he goes, why not? And then he calls them scum brains and says all he's got is pinheaded little morons on this ship. And he asks if this kid understood what's going on, with gravity and how you can move in any direction. And the boy nods and he goes, no, you didn't. You're not only stupid, but a liar. And then this is where he starts to separate Ender from everybody else. He says, there's only one boy on the launch with any brains, and that's Ender Wiggin. And so basically he tells them that he's going to be commander while you guys are all fucking around being idiots.
Yeah,
and that's the first thing that gets people like, Oh, shit.
Yeah, he singled him out as the exceptional one, which will make him a target to the rest of the students and isolate Ender from them, as per his strategy. What other book have we seen this before? Because we've seen this before in, like, Maniac McGee, where, like, the exceptional kid is resented by all the other kids who are made to look bad because of the protagonist's exceptionalism.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's funny because in real life, it sure seems like the exceptional people are the ones who get all of it, and it's the people that are weaker or less able that are the ones who get the hate and beat up and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like, and this is kind of like the teacher pet scenario, where nobody likes the kid who's friends with the teacher and gets all the special privileges.
Yeah, I want to say that we've seen this in a book recently, in one of our recent episodes, where the teacher kind of makes the protagonist kind of an enemy of the class, but I'm racking my brain here.
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen it in a book that we've done so far.
I don't know. If I think of it, I'll come with it. But yeah, it's a thing that happens. It's where a teacher will praise a student and make them a target for the rest of the resentful kids.
And it is working because one of the kids has unfastened his straps and starts hitting Ender in the head. And Ender's kind of like letting it go. Like, hey, Graf is going to step in and stop this kid. And then he begins to realize that he won't step in. And I wanted to mention something that I noticed. This kid says, "Hey, fart eater," to Ender. And I realized, man, Orson Scott Card really likes butt stuff, like things that have to do with butts. Fart and turd and all that.
Yeah.
That's also how 6-year-olds talk. That's their insults because they don't know anything else.
He doesn't have to write it this way where 6-year-olds talk like this.
Right.
This could be a world where 6-year-olds don't talk like this, where
I mean, they're supposed to be super smart.
Right, and they're obsessed with butt stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no kink shaming here, Andy. This is a no kink shaming podcast. You leave people if they want to do butt stuff.
Listen, no one said butt stuff is bad. All I'm saying is that Orson Scott Card specifically tends to talk about butt stuff a lot.
Yep.
He does. Apparently,
he specifically would be against butt stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it that secret that he might be holding?
He thinks he doth protest too much.
Right. But Ender is Ender's game is gonna play show its face here. He knows
Ender's game.
He knows that this kid is going to hit him again. And so he waits. And as soon as the kid goes to swing again, he throws his hands up, snatches the kid, and then throws him through the air in the gravity. But he did it really hard. And so the kid goes flying through the air like he would in low gravity and ends up slamming into the bulkhead of the ship. And it breaks his arm. Like, Ender doesn't play like, just here, I'm going to win this fight really quick. He just...
Well, this one he didn't do on purpose. Because of the null effect of the null gravity is what messed up his calculation.
Yes and no. He wanted the kid to be hurt. Like he
all he did was pull as hard as he could. He caught the kid's arm and pulled as hard as he could. He didn't know what was going to happen.
No, but that's like the small little part of Ender is that no, he doesn't want the person to get hurt. But yes, he does want the person to get hurt. That's why they like him, is that
he wants to end the fight before the battle begins.
Right.
But again, Ender wasn't expecting it. That's literally in the book. So he was not expecting it to happen.
It literally says Ender felt sick. He had only meant to catch the boy's arm. No, he had meant to hurt him. And he had pulled with all his strength. He hadn't meant it to be so public.
Yeah, he didn't mean to hurt him so bad.
Yeah.
Is what it was. But yeah, he broke dude's arm.
Broke kid's arm. Fucked him up.
Ender hated himself. Oh, come on, man. You're all right.
Well, he doesn't want to be a killer like his brother Peter. He doesn't want to enjoy it.
Yeah, and then Graf kind of pulls it in even a little bit more here. He tells all these kids, what do you think is going on here? We picked the best of the best. And among you, Ender Wiggin is the best one in the launch. Like he's still trying, even after he did that.
I like how he called them my little dorklings.
Yeah.
When I tell you Ender Wiggin is the best in this launch, take the hint, my little dorklings. Don't mess mess with him. Little boys have died in battle school before. Do I make myself clear? Yeah, that's gonna get the kids on Ender's side for sure.
Right.
So they dock with the battle school. Graf asks Ender if he had a good flight. It's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, he confronts Graf. I thought you were my friend.
So yeah, Graf is like, it's not my job to be your friend. It's my job to make soldiers, and it's your job to be good enough that that the other boys will want to follow you, because we're fighting a war.
A war of love.
Oh yes, a war that can be won by the power of love.
Love is a battlefield.
All's fair in love and war.
You know, he also says, he's like, we need a hero. We're holding out for a hero at the end of the night.
I knew you were going to
be
say
strong.
that.
He's gotta be strong.
Fast.
He's gotta be good.
I'll never forget the night that you did that at karaoke.
Yeah, that was fun.
And Ender's like, I can be your hero, baby.
Yeah.
I can kiss away the pain.
And Graf is like, I don't need another one of these on my record. So he also mentions to him that, he asks about freedom and all that. And Graf's like, yeah, people are free right up until humanity needs them, and humanity needs you. So you're no longer free. Like, you're a tool. But they don't talk about it. They do and they don't, but they're in a rush to get him ready. Like, they don't need him in the next 6 months to be ready, but they need him well before he's an adult, for sure.
They are hinting that things are going to come to a head before they can be ready.
And he also ends up talking to Anderson shortly after he sends Ender away down to his bunk room, and he tells Anderson, the kid's wrong. I am his friend. It's just I need him to be ready to do this, and I can't act like his friend. Which, Graf isn't. It really, maybe in his own mind, he's Ender's friend, but he's not. I mean, definitely isn't.
He sees all this as necessary to save the human race.
And then the conversation to the next one, they're going to get into the games, but they're basically like having a conversation about whether that kid's arm getting broken was too much or not, or just enough. And basically they're like, yeah, it's great. It makes people question whether they should go at him. But at the same time, it shows us that Ender's willing to do what he has to do to survive. And they kind of even blame the kid a little bit because he shouldn't have been out of his seat in the first place at that point. The ship they're on is pretty neat, like the battle station or the battle school. They've discovered how to create gravity, and they never really explain how they created gravity inside of the main living quarters and everything. But they do have gravity, like artificial gravity. And when they get to their bunks, they send Ender over to his bunk, and he's got to place his hand on the scanner at the trunk in front of his bunk, and he has to speak his name twice. And then it opens up, and he's got like a locker at the end of his bed with his desk is in it, and some jumpsuits, and these things called flash suits, which are what they use in the games to allow them to simulate getting hit by munitions.
I believe the gravity in the station is created by the centrifugal force. They spin the whole station around.
They say that at first, yes. They say that at first that it's the centripetal force that's creating the gravity. But later, they kind of suggest that there's more to it than that.
Right, that they found ways to manipulate gravity a little bit. It's like the outside of the station is gravity by centrifugal force, but then like in the inside of that wheel is the battle rooms, right? With which have closer to zero gravity, but then they play around with gravity in the transition between the two.
But they have like these 3 colors. Each team or whatever, they're called launchies right now. This is where they first come in and basically be like the kids or the people that are in boot camp at this point right now.
The cadets, yeah. They're the fresh meat.
Yep. And his color is red, yellow right now. So basically whenever his team gets called, they'll have like these lights that show them where to go, and he has to follow red, yellow, yellow. And if you had, different colors, you'd follow those.
And this is where we meet Dap. He says, I'm your mom for the next few months. And turns out Ender was given the bunk where most of the time the leaders end up being. So he's in a bunk right by the door on the lower level, which most people would think that's like the worst bunk, but in actuality, probably one of the better ones.
It was by mistake. Ender walked in and he just basically chose that bunk.
They said that all the other bunks were taken, so he had to take that one.
Right.
But he played it off like they had saved it for him, and he actually wanted that bunk.
Right.
Yeah, and then Dap told him it turned out that's where usually the chief officer is usually there. So he ends up getting a position, like basically like a true position of power just because of the bunk he got. But Dap is not one to be messed with. He's nice, but not too nice. So he's like, give me any lip and I'll break your face, okay? So
right. But he also makes it known that he's the nicest person they're going to have on the ship.
He does basically wind up being the nicest leader
yep.
that Ender encounters in the battle school.
This is battle school, not nursery school.
So he also explains that, you might get pushed around, but murder and deliberate injury are against the rules. And he notes that he heard someone's arm got broken, but if that happens again, people will be icing out. When icing out is washing out, getting kicked out, put out in the cold, sent earthside, finished at battle school.
Just toss him out the airlock.
Yep.
Probably not, but that's definitely what happened. No, it isn't.
And it kind of, even here he says, so boys, if any of you are thinking of being troublemakers, at least be clever about it, okay? So the Spartans, one of the ways that they trained them was they would not feed them enough food, right? So if they wanted more food, they would have to go out and steal it. And they weren't supposed to steal, but they also weren't, if they didn't get caught, they wouldn't get in trouble for it, okay? So it was kind of like teaching them to think faster than your opponent. You're hungry, go take some food, but don't get caught, And that's kind of what he's saying here, if you're going to be a troublemaker, be clever.
So they go to dinner. No one sits by them, but there's a giant scoreboard on the wall. Show the team standings, win-loss records, recent scores. And then he started to notice that the older kids were divided into groups according to the uniforms that they had.
I didn't realize Scorpion was actually a name in this. I was thinking of the other ones, Salamander, Dragon, Rat.
Ooh, Tide. They have the best clothes because nobody washes like Tide.
Yeah. Nope.
They're the cleanest group.
The only problem with them is they have big targets on their outfit, and so it's easy to hit them.
That's true.
He meets a kid named Mick, tells him his name is Ender, and he's like, yeah, it's not a bad name, finisher, it sounds right on the nose of what you need to be doing, basically. And he kind of tells him, hey, I notice you're alone, and every launch has that. But this kid doesn't plan on being a commander, this older kid. He's like, nah, I'm going to be a soldier. I'll be cannon fodder. I don't have the brains for it.
I'm a fart in the air conditioning. I'm always there, but most of the time, nobody knows it.
Yeah, it turns out all the other guys that he was with, he came up with, they're all commanders, but not him. So he gives some advice. Doing you a favor, make friends, be a leader, kiss butts if you got to. But if the other guys despise you, you know what I mean? Nah, you don't know nothing. You launchies are all like. So yeah, he tries to tell Ender, tries to give him some good advice.
And then we never see him again.
Yeah, but he didn't like Mick. So yeah, Ender says, I will not be the bugger of my group, he thought.
Yeah, because that's what Mick asked him. Are you the bugger in your group? Every group of launchies has the bugger.
And he decides he did this for his family. He didn't leave just to become iced or cannon fodder. So he thinks of them and gains strength.
And then he also almost cries.
Yes.
But he does everything he can to push it down. He doubles numbers up into the millions or something.
And he's 6.
Not even 7 years old. He's 6 years old.
Yep.
He goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and it carries it all the way up to
6,700,800.
Yeah,
67 million.
108,864, and that's when he began to be unsure.
Yeah. Ooh, do I have the right numbers here? Fuck you, Ender.
It's like those people that can do pi out to an insane amount. It's like, why? / how?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the first night at the place, and so he hears other people crying out in the dark, and he couldn't help himself, and he formed Valentine's name, could hear laughing in the distance.
Yeah, and Dap kind of comes around, and his position is definitely, when he says he's the mother, it's like he comes around and kind of like gives them minor comfort. You know, like the kids are upset that, you know, it's kind of sinking in where they are right now and what this means now.
Mm-hmm.
And so
they're all feeling homesick and on their first night.
And so he kind of goes around and gives them minor comfort. And then right into the next day, they start, boom, school that's reading numbers, history, videos of bloody battles in space, Marines spraying their guts all over the walls of bugger ships.
It is worth noting that with some of the kids that Dap was coming around and giving like a gentle touch on the shoulder or whatever, it was that moment of kindness that made a bunch of kids go over the edge and start crying, but and Ender did not, because he was used to holding back his tears because of his brother Peter. He didn't want Peter to ever know that he could affect him, and so he silently thanks his brother for teaching him how to hide his feelings.
I can attest the kindness being actually making the floodgates open more. I used to be a camp counselor, and usually in the first 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights, there would be 1 or 2 kids that were having a little tough time. It was like their first time away from home, some of them, and so yeah, you go and you try to like talk to them to be nicer, but usually they cried a lot worse, and then they got better. They had to get, you know, they have to get it out. So I understand why they did it.
You should have started yelling at them. That would help.
No, we only yelled at the kids that pooped the bed. How dare you! How dare you poop in your sleeping bag? It's gross.
What are you, a baby? Pooping? Huh?
Now your entire cabin has to do 2 laps around the camp just because of you, Mr. Poo Poo Pants.
You're going to sleep in that poop.
Actually, here's how good of a camp this was. Like, there were kids that had accidents, and you would have to check every camper's bunk to see if there was an accident. And if there was, you would immediately take that, throw it in the washing machine, wash it, dry it, put it back before the kids get back from their first class. Nobody knows anything. Saves them the embarrassment, and yeah, it was a good system.
Well, you were clearly not trying to raise good soldiers.
Nope.
Nah. Oh, maybe Jesus' soldiers, because it's a Christian camp.
Soldiers for the army of Christ.
It's a whole song about that. Again, grew up in the church. Not part of it anymore.
Yeah, growing up in the church, you hear some weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
what you don't hear about is these crazy games.
Right, these crazy games that they got. They've got a bunch of it sounds kind of like an arcade almost. Like but all the games have a focus on strategy and action, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So sounds like an arcade.
And he's the only launchy that really comes and watches these older boys play this game. Sometimes they push him out of the way, but he was like, no, I want to know about this.
And Ender watches them and thinks about, all the ways he could beat them. They think, this is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, yeah, I could totally beat him.
Within an hour, he understood the regularities by then. Understood the rules the computer was following, so he could think ahead of the computer.
He asks the kid about, he gets to a point where he's challenging this kid, and he hasn't played it yet, so he basically knows he's gonna lose the first one. So he asks the kid if he wants to play 2 out of 3, and the kid's like, yeah, sure, or no at first, and then he's like, oh, he goads him with, what are you scared of me for? So they start playing, and he doesn't know how to play, and the kid wins the first game. And he's like, you satisfied, Launchy? And he says 2 out of 3. And this kid's like, we don't allow 2 out of 3 games. He goes, oh, so you beat me the first time I ever touched the game, Ender said. If you can't do it twice, you can't do it at all. So when they played again, Ender won, but he didn't win easily. And then the last time, he just, beat him real quick. And of course, all the older kids are like, oh, this game's getting too easy. That's the problem. Anybody can play this one now. And no one congratulates him or says anything. It's an excuse. It's the machine. It's not that Ender was better. But that's all Ender needed. He actually likes when people won't give him recognition because he understands that they're not giving recognition because they're being sore losers because they know they couldn't beat him.
Right, but he knows that they'll remember him. They'll remember the kid who beat the older boys at Street Fighter 2. Basically, in my mind, I picture like a little kid watching this older kid playing Street Fighter, and he's just watching like how the computer counters and the strategies and whatever. So he knows he could beat the computer, but he doesn't quite know the controls. So he takes on the older boy, and once he gets a handle for the controls, it's game on, and his strategy can't be beat.
We find out the name of the kid whose arm got broken. His name is Bernard.
You have to say it with a French accent.
Yep.
Bernard.
Bernard.
Bernard. He spoke his own name with a French accent, since the French, with their arrogant separatism, insisted that the teaching of Standard not begin until the age of 4, when the French language patterns were already set. So this kid speaks with a French accent.
What a dick.
Damn separatists.
Just to make you hate him even more.
Separatists. They, basically, I would almost say that they would try to be like an empire or something, and they're just shit. They're gonna lose. But so the broken arm made him a martyr, and he's kind of a sadist.
Yep, he's a sadist. His sadism made him a natural focus for all those who love pain in others.
Yep. And so Ender's the enemy of him and all his little cronies. And they're basically just doing kid stuff. They're kicking his bed, tripping him on the ladders, and if he left anything outside his locker, they would obviously do something with it. And it made him quick on his feet, and he knew not to leave stuff out. And Ender would get angry, but he knew that that wouldn't work.
So Ender figured out that Bernard is basically like trying to form his own kingdom, his own hierarchy of people where he's the leader and he has his underlings. So some of the boys were willing servants, whereas other ones didn't really like Bernard as much. And Ender, being who he was, he saw who didn't like Bernard.
Yeah, he basically wants to put himself together with the people that Bernard is picking on, because that means that he can create his own little group of people. And he doesn't really do it with like saying, hey, we're a group that's together, but just like, hey, I'm an ally.
Right, so he turns his attention on this one boy in particular that Bernard and his cronies are focusing on, and that's a small boy named Shen.
They call him Worm because he's small and he wriggles.
And because he wriggles, look how he shimmies his butt when he walks. More butt stuff. More butt fixation.
Oh, look at you, mister. I'm good at accents.
I am a professional voice actor, professional narrator.
Yeah, that's true.
So Ender hacks the desks. All the desks are on a network. He hacks the desks, and he made up a fake student named God, and he sent a message around to go around every 30 seconds. And what is it? The message says, "Cover your butt. Bernard is watching. God."
So Bernard's like, "Who did this?"
Yep.
And Shen says, "God."
So then he sends Ender a message, says, I know it was you, and Ender just acts like he didn't even see the message.
And then a message starts going around to every boy's desk, and this was the message. I love your butt. Let me kiss it, Bernard. I did not write that message! Not a professional voice actor.
But still pretty good.
Harold, that was Austrian.
I did not write that message. I did not write that message.
I'll be back.
I didn't know it was Raiden was here.
Christopher Lambert. I love your butt. Let me kiss it. That actually sounds like a Jean-Claude Van Damme phrase. I love your butt. Let me kiss it. He's Belgian. Close enough.
They are very close geographically.
Yeah, and Dap is kind of like, hey, everybody knows that the message automatically puts your name at the end, and Bernard's like, I didn't do it. Ah! And Dap's like, I don't know, man. Seems like it was you.
Bernard's going to Dap for help, and Dap knows who's doing it. He's got access. But he's not playing along. He's not confirming or denying any suspicions. Yesterday someone sent a message that was signed God. Really? I didn't know he was signed onto the system, said Dap.
But yeah, so Ender denies it to Shen, but Shen basically knows, yeah, it was you, bro. I already know.
He's making the head bully look ridiculous.
So then Ender ends up starting to play some games. So, this is all going on. This is taking place over weeks and whatever. It's not just in the first few days or whatever. This is days in school or whatever.
Then it goes into the first experience in the battle room.
Yep. So, so the battle room is pretty cool. I like how they have it set up. And we'll talk about it after we watch it in the Reiterated. But the book does a really great job of making the battle room seem really cool.
Mm-hmm. To make a long story short, it's like 0G laser tag.
Right. Yeah. And when you get shot in the legs or the arm, it'll freeze. And you aren't done until you've been shot in the chest. That's destroyed. But if they disable your legs, you can still shoot. If they disable one of your arms, you can still use the other arm to shoot. So until you've been hit in like the chest, you are able to continue fighting.
It's basically teaching you to not give up until you're done.
Until you're absolutely done.
Yeah, you keep fighting because these buggers are going to keep coming at you no matter if you take off some of their limbs. So you got to do what you have to do. So you fight till the end.
Yeah, and you can use some of that to your advantage. You can use your legs, like Ender learns pretty much right away that you can use your legs as something to block the rest of your body, or you can use a friend to say one of your other guys has been shot. You can use them as a human shield, and they'll be stiff because if your arm's pointing straight out when it gets shot, it will be stuck in that position. If your knee is bent, your knee is going to continue to be bent. It won't be able to move because the suit locks it up.
Mm-hmm. Like a strategy that Ender invents is to he freezes his own legs in a crouching position, and then he uses those legs as cover to fire between the legs so that he's not so easily hit.
Yeah, he picks up the 0G and the different strategies. Just even how to move quicker than everybody else.
Yep.
He's watching Bernard and Bernard's friend. How do you pronounce that? I was pronouncing it
a lie. Yeah, I would say a lie.
A lie. It is a lie.
Okay.
Yeah, he's getting to learn like the controls of the gun, and all the kids are kind of goofing around in the 0G and messing around. But Ender has this notion that because Alai is Bernard's kind of closest friend in their little bully clique that Bernard's been making, that he's going to get close to Alai and kind of
circumvent the whole Bernard being a bully.
He's going to ingratiate with him, and kind of break up the clique that way.
And while they're all kind of like floating around, not really know what to do, Ender is noticing things like Bernard is panicking when he's flying. He can't figure out what to do. Whereas Ender at this point has already figured out how to rebound off the walls, and he's testing out the battlefield, how it works, how to jump around, how to move through the space in quick, efficient manners. And other people are like trying to swim through it, but there's not really any way to swim. You're in zero gravity. There's nothing to grab onto, really. They've got these stars placed around the area that you can like bounce off of it, like barriers type things, but they're in star formation, so they can jump up and grab onto it, hide behind it, push off of it, and they can set them in different configurations depending on the battle.
And what the quote unquote stars are basically just like big blocks from which to take cover, and it like changes the battlefield, and they just reconfigure it for each battle.
Yep.
So Ender and Alai conspire to get together with Bernard and Shen, and they go on a little shooting spree and take the other students by surprise and start freezing everybody else.
Just to kind of test out how the guns work.
But it also kind of serves the double purpose of Ender ingratiating himself into kind of the in crowd and like kind of breaking up the barrier between the in crowd and the outcasts by bringing Shen along and including Eli and Bernard. So it kind of solidifies the group of launchies.
Yeah, Ender put this little plan in motion, basically made Eli the leader of the group. So he replaced Bernard with Eli, because Eli and him were friends, whereas Bernard was an enemy. The launch was no longer divided into Bernard's in-group and Ender's outcast. Eli was the bridge. But this is where we learn about the Giant and the Giant's game.
Yeah, after that whole game, after they're done playing around in there, they basically, Dap comes in, he's like, all right, that's enough of this nonsense, you guys suck. And then they go back to their room and Ender pulls his desk out.
Yep, they have a free play time.
For free play time, yep.
And free play is a weird kind of puzzle simulation type game where it puts you in really strange scenarios and you have to figure out what to do and survive.
So it's a very advanced WarioWare.
And he's got
something like that, yeah.
Different avatars. He started as a little boy, and then he turned into a large mouse with delicate hands, and he played with a cat, and then it got easy to dodge the cat, and so he went and he tried, and he was trying against this giant, and he was getting irritated with it because no matter what he chose, the giant had a game where it basically put these two glasses in front of him, and no matter which glass he chose, it killed him. So he couldn't figure out how to beat the giant. So he went on to do other stuff. He was trying to play with dive bombing ducks, and he turned into a fish, and he didn't like that. It reminded him of being frozen in the battle room.
But he keeps like all roads kind of lead to the giant and his guessing game.
Yep.
Of two different glasses to choose from, and they have different effects. It's like two different glasses, and the liquids are different each time. Sometimes his head dissolves like acid, sometimes catches him on fire, sometimes his dude falls in and drowns. And the conversation between, I think it was Graf and somebody else in the beginning, they're talking about how like nobody ever gets past the giant's drink. The leaders, the high brass, the teachers or whatever, they can obviously monitor what the students are doing with this game, observe their problem solving abilities.
So he gets back to the giant, and instead of picking up one of the glasses to drink, Ender kicks one over. The giant starts yelling, "Cheater, cheater!" But then Ender jumped onto the giant's face and began to dig into the giant's eye.
Yeah, it came away like cottage cheese.
That is a very vivid image. Just kicks the giant in the chin, burrows into the giant's eye, claws away at it, and it comes apart like cottage cheese.
Yep. And then the giant falls over, basically dead, and a bat flies up, and he offers some of the eye stuff to the bat, and the bat took it and was like, "Hey, welcome to Fairyland." So he finally made it to Fairyland.
What kind of game would this be a solution in?
Right.
I can't figure out how to get past this test of wits of which cup to drink. Well, the solution is to enter the giant's eyeball, and then feed some of that shit to a bat.
The game is something that is basically created by their own minds, though. It has this, like, the computer reads, and that it comes up later. They talk about it later, what's exactly is going on with the game, but you basically don't have anything holding you back from doing whatever you intend to do. It all depends on what choices you are going to make, and there's nothing stopping you from making any choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys,
I'm wondering,
Ender's game.
Ooh.
I wonder just like whether this program kind of writes itself as they go along.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it is. Because, I mean, later it comes up to a point where something happens that they've never seen before. Even now, by killing the giant, he is the first person to have ever killed the giant.
And the bat welcomes him to Fairyland.
Yeah, like, so they talk about it in the beginning of the next chapter where they're like, it was impossible for someone to beat that. It's the unbeatable game, and he won regardless. And so this is where they decide that it's time to move him. They want to move him up to the next step, which is becoming a member of one of the armies in the battle school. Yeah, in the beginning of the next chapter, Salamander, they talk about how the whole thing with the players getting killed by the giant is messed up, that they're doing this and they're having kids play this game. But at the same time, they're kind of preparing these kids for the fact that death is just a thing, and they don't want them to care about death at all. Like, ugh, you're going to die. Ugh, people are going to die. Things are going to happen. Whatever. Move on. Keep moving forward.
And then they say what everybody's been thinking. Does it ever seem to you that these boys aren't children? I look at what they do, the way they talk, and they don't seem like little kids.
Yep.
They're the most brilliant children in the world, each in his own way. But shouldn't they still act like children? They aren't normal.
And they're not at all. There's something different. And I guess in the next book, they explain why these kids are the way they are as far as their mental capacity and all that. But it's not really necessary in this. And I have a feeling that it was a thing where he was like, ooh, I got to explain why they're the way they are. So he wrote it in the next book. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that these kids are all born and trained with a purpose from the beginning. So everybody has I've seen videos of 4-year-olds doing pretty amazing things. And I often wonder, like, like, oh, it's so amazing. Look what this kid's doing. And I'm like, yeah, but what's it like for that kid at home? I mean, is that kid ever getting any time to have fun? Or are they just like, this is fun for him. It's fun for him to learn all of Beethoven's work on the piano. It's fun. He enjoys it. He just learned it. Like, I don't know. I think you abuse your kid.
I mean, well, my one friend learned, Moonlight Sonata, so that he could get Alan Trammell's rookie baseball card. So
yeah, but that was something he wanted to do. I mean, some of these kids are just like, it's like, man. I mean, yeah, those kids might have some success, but what's their mental state when they're teenagers and young adults? I wonder.
Well, somehow, like, Ender's mental state is as a weathered, fully functioning adult mind who reasons like an experienced tactician.
Yeah, he does for sure.
Not just some piano savant or something.
But he does end up getting a message that he is now to leave the Launchies, and he is headed to the Salamander army, where he'll meet his new commander, Bonzo Madrid. We would read it at first, but we find out it's Bonzo.
Bonzo.
His new code is green, green, brown, and he doesn't need to take any possessions with him because they don't have possessions. But he's moving forward to the battle room, to a team that goes into the battle room regularly for training long before he should be. Most kids don't make it for a couple years, and he's going there. He's only been here months at this point.
Getting called up from like single A to double A.
And this is when we have a nice moment with two friends, because they're joking about him leaving.
Yeah, because this is where Ender's finally getting comfortable, finally like having friends, and things seem to be good. But obviously he's got to be more isolated, so they are bringing him up into Salamander Army.
And so right before he leaves, Alai suddenly kissed Ender on the cheek and whispered in his ear, "Salam." Then he walked away, because that was forbidden, a suppressed religion perhaps. Or maybe the word had some private and powerful meaning for Alai alone. And we do find out later in the book what it stands for.
Yeah. And then this brings a memory to him of a time when his mom had prayed over him, and he just remembered the holiness of it, Because in this world, where religion is suppressed, they turn children into soldiers. That's what we're looking forward to when we get rid of religion.
I mean, small victories. I mean, at least Orson Scott Card is including Islam in the whole suppressed religions of this world.
Well, there are no gay people in Islam, obviously.
Right. He's down with that.
That's why he gets along with him so well.
Yep.
Yeah, he had given Ender a gift so sacred that even Ender could not be allowed to understand what it meant.
When he left, he knew that he had to go to a different part of the school to find his green, green, brown, because it wouldn't show up in the Launchy section.
So he goes back into the into the free play game.
In
He
the
comes
public
back in
area.
In the public area, right?
Yep.
And he goes back in, and the giant's corpse is already decayed.
It's starting to turn into like a hill.
Which that's an interesting kind of game where it saves your progress like that, and time advances, and your defeated enemies don't fade away. They actually decay. I think there should be more games like that where the bodies stick around.
Right. He goes around. What game is it where the shit stays persistent for a long time? I can't remember what game it is now.
I think it's like one of the Fallout games, like Fallout 3 maybe.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, where it's like you kill things and it persists. Like you come back later and it's still there.
Yeah, I seem to remember that part of Fallout games too. Particularly 3, where you can like pick them up and move them around. And I didn't play Fallout 4 all that much, but I think that kind of persisted a little bit too. But yeah,
Fallout 4 was really fun. I like that one.
I kind of fell into a part where I was just sticking around the I think it was Sanctuary, just building up the base and not getting into the game
right
like at all. Just setting up stakes and staying in one part of the world for a while. But yeah, this seems to be a game with at least that kind of freedom or attention to detail, maybe.
Not only persistence, but it seems to continue after you're gone, because at this point he hasn't played in a minute and the giant's corpse is decaying and becoming part of the landscape. But he's able to go around the giant and he sees there's like a playground with monkey bars and teeter-totters and whatnot, and there's a bunch of kids playing there, and he notices that he's smaller than the other kids. And when he gets in line for the slide, he climbs to the top and he watched the kids go down. And as he started to slide, he fell through and he wasn't able to stay on the slide.
All the things at this playground would mess with him. Like sometimes the monkey bar, he'd be on the monkey bar and one of the bars would fall out. Or he'd be on the teeter-totter and something would happen. And yeah, these kids all just laugh at him and then they go back to playing.
And it was pissing him off. Basically, he wanted to hurt him, but he decided to walk into the forest instead and get away from him. He finds like this ancient brick road, starts walking down it.
But what came out of the woods? Wolves! Wolves with human faces!
Slavering wolves.
And the human faces were those of the children from the playground.
Those fucking kids he should have killed in the first place.
And so Ender got eaten.
There's got to be some kind of symbolism to the things that happen in this game.
I say it all the time, man.
I wonder what it could be.
If little kids are laughing at you, punch them and show them who's boss.
Yep, dropkick them, motherfuckers.
Yep. Boom. And they killed him, though. They devoured him quickly because he didn't have a weapon. Then he went back again. And yeah, I mean, he plays this game and eventually he wins. He figures it out. He figures out how to kill the wolves. And he basically dispatches all of them after a while.
The brook was made of acid, so he just throw the wolves in and then they would disintegrate.
Yeah, he figured out that he could lure the wolves, like he climbs up the slide and make them like as he falls through them or something, like they start falling and he drags the bodies to the brook and throws them in and they sizzle away.
Yep. And then he ends up getting through to a cavern after this, and he finds this cave and he finds these friendly looking creatures, and he's like, I don't really care about the friendly creatures. And he finds a door finally that says the end of the world, and he doesn't hesitate. He just goes right through, and it's literally like a ledge on a cliff.
And he's on a ledge and he just sees this beautiful, beautiful display. Deep green forest with dashes of autumn color and patches here and there of cleared land, with ox-drawn plows and small thatched roof cabin villages.
Yeah.
Thatched roof cottages!
But yeah, so he ends up after he jumps off the edge and everything, he jumps off the ledge, not he's like, whatever, I'm gonna see what happens. And he ends up being okay.
Well, he gets carried by a cloud. So apparently this is a Mario world.
Right.
And what's that guy from Mario Kart that's holding the
Lakitu?
Yeah. I was like, how do you pronounce it? Is it Lakitu or Lakitu? Lakitu.
Some people say Lakitu.
Well, that guy, he stole the cloud.
Yeah. Lakitu's cloud.
But he ends up he finds this rug and it turns into a serpent.
It's in that castle.
A snake in it. Yeah, in a castle that he gets to, and it tells him it's his only escape. His death is his only escape, and he's looking around for a weapon, and then suddenly it goes dark, and the screen goes dark, and it says, "Report to commander immediately. You are late." Green, green, brown, and that pisses him off. But he goes and follows it over there, does as he's told, even though he doesn't like doing as he's told.
I guess I'll go report to my new army.
when he gets there, he notices that armies are much larger than launch groups, which makes sense. And these armies, I believe there's somewhere around like 40 people in the armies. 40, 41, something like that. Yeah. So here they'll have like a barracks and everybody gets in the barracks, but the commander has their own private room. But Bonzo doesn't like having his own private room, and he tries to like play it off as being, that he'd rather be with his soldiers, but it's honestly ends up being that he's scared of the dark. He's afraid to be alone.
What is that in Spanish? What's that phrase? It says, the name is Spanish, Bonzo Madrid.
Bonzo Madrid.
Aquí en nosotros hablamos español.
Aquí nosotros hablamos español, señor Gran Fedor.
What does that mean?
It means here we speak Spanish, Mr. Great Odor. I looked up the word Fedor and it didn't have a Spanish translation. It had a Portuguese translation.
Interesting.
Weirdly enough, and it translated to like a bad odor.
Okay.
That's weird. I think maybe he just kind of Google translated a phrase from English to Spanish
in 1984.
Yep, he's
Wow.
He's that talented. That
Orson
Mr. Card.
Scott Card was way ahead of his time.
But funnily enough, this is the only Spanish in the book.
Yeah, it's the only time they speak Spanish.
He says, "Here we speak Spanish, Mr. Big Odor.
Yeah, we're Spanish speakers, so let's start talking in English.
We never speak Spanish again."
Yeah. But all these kids are like, you're not a salamander. You need to get the fuck out of here. And Bonzo definitely doesn't like him being there. There's a girl. There's actually a girl here. She made it through the evolutionary barrier.
She somehow overcame her handicap.
Yep.
Of having ovaries.
Yep.
Having a uterus, yes.
And this is where, another one chimed in. Shit talking. That is one of the first times in any of the books we've read where we've had like the word shit, which is fine. I'm cool with it.
Mother Petra, she talking. Shit talking.
Yeah, Ender's despaired because he made the wrong friend. Because Petra's the outcast because she's a girl.
Yep. God damn it. I did it again. But it's perfect for the commanders. They want him to be, or the officers. That's what they want, is for him to always be outcast in some way. He's got to prove to everybody that he's worth it.
And Bonzo's kind of a dick. He's kind of a hard ass.
Yeah, he basically tells Ender that he's got to, when they go to the battle room, he can't go in. He's got to wait 4 minutes.
Because he's only 6 years old. 6 years, 9 months, and 12 days old.
Yeah, but he didn't ask how old he was going to be. He asked how old he was.
Well, that's why
he's
at
6.
first he said, I'm almost 7.
But he's one of those power trippy leaders that is all posture and no substance.
Right. And he basically Bonzo thinks that this is a trick. Like, Salamander Army's doing really well, so the officers are putting Ender in there to fuck with him. So that's why Bonzo's like, you aren't coming out there at all. We're not going to let you weaken us, and so you won't get to train. You're not going to train with us. You're not going to battle with us. And when you come out and you hang on to the door, but you don't do anything.
And I'm going to get rid of you as soon as I can.
Petra tries to defend him at one point, says he's all heart, and Bonzo just slaps her right across the face, back of his hand.
With just his fingernails. Fingernails.
Yeah, with just his fingernails. He doesn't even make good contact, but he just like, scratches her with his fingernails trying to slap her.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Petra, she takes it like a champ, doesn't even cry out.
And in here, they don't have like locks on their lockers. Everything's wide open, so there's no privacy when you're in an army. They're further removing your individuality is what they're trying to do. So like buggers are bugs, and they seem to work in concert with each other, like a flock of birds or like a colony of ants, how they can decide things without having to talk to each other necessarily, like we need to. And the people in charge understand that if you're going to beat something like that, then you need to be like that. You need to be able to make decisions and move immediately, not transfer it down the line and get everybody stationed up and ready. And a team needs to work without having to communicate very much at all. They need to be able to just get their idea across and go. And that's what these battle games are. The battle games are cool. Like, I like how they describe him when they get in there. I mean, there's a lot here. Bonzo's a dick, and he's just continuously being a dick to him.
Yeah, him and Petra's relationship grow quite a bit here, just because they spend time together and talk.
And Petra kind of helps him learn how to shoot, and she starts giving him tips. Like, she'll go in free time and teach him how to move around and shoot in the battle room. And Bonzo doesn't like that. He's basically like, no, you can't do that anymore. And that does come to a point where Ender is able to pull a move that pisses Bonzo off, but at the same time shows that Ender, again, can outthink his enemy. And so Petra and Ender start doing this training after breakfast, and they're during their free time. And Bonzo's like, you aren't allowed to do that anymore. And Ender says to him, well, can I speak to you privately? And Bonzo's like, you motherfucker. Because the rule is that if you ask a commander if you can speak to them privately, they have to acknowledge that and give you the opportunity. And he basically says, listen, he's like, I'll follow any order that you give me, but that you're allowed to give me. He's like, but you aren't allowed to give that order, because free time is free time. And he's like, so you're going to go in there and you're going to tell everybody you changed your mind. And Bonzo's like, what? And he's like, not right now. You're not going to do it. He's like, tomorrow morning. He goes, we'll go in there right now. You can pretend like you won. I'll act like I'm hurt, like I lost. And he goes, but tomorrow morning, you're going to tell everyone you changed your mind and that I can train on my free time. And this just further ostracizes him with Bonzo. Bonzo is really pissed about this now because he hadn't thought of all this, or he thought maybe his attitude and being a dick was going to be enough to make Ender just bow down, but clearly he doesn't know Ender.
And another reason why Bonzo doesn't want him doing that is because of who he's practicing with. He's practicing with some launchies. He's practicing with Ali and Shen, along with Petra.
No, not at this point. It's just Petra at the beginning.
No, when you're talking, he's talking before that is where if only. Oh, okay, yeah. So if only he still had Ali and Shen to practice with.
Yeah. No, right now
so
he's just
thinking
practicing
about
with
it.
Petra.
Yeah, he wants to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is
Right. And then there was a rule where Bonzo got pissed off because Ender was like laying naked in his bed, and Bonzo was like, you can't get naked in here because Petra's in here. And he's like, well, Petra walks around naked sometimes. And they're like, yeah, Petra can do what she wants, but you can't. And Ender's kind of like, well, she still looks like a boy. I mean, it's not like she's got boobs and stuff at this point. You know what I mean? But I kind of get it. But at the same time, he says that it splits the army. In Ender's mind, that splits the army. Like, making her different it puts a divide between her and the boys, and puts too much focus on, like, why? Well, why? Why is that way? You know, which I kind of agree with, but at the same time, I also don't think, I don't know.
So this is the author saying that if we allow women in the military, like, everybody should be naked or nobody should be naked, or we can't give women special treatment because they're in the military.
Again, this hits on Starship Troopers for me. There's a scene in Starship Troopers where after their training, men and women all go in the shower and shower together, and they're not, it's not a sexual thing. So I think to some extent that is kind of true. We create these tensions by doing that, but it's so far gone at this point that it'd be really difficult for us to come up with that plan today. Like, if we couldn't all of a sudden today say, well, all bathrooms are just neutral and any kind of locker room is neutral now, we wouldn't be able to do that now, right? Because we've already decided that that's the way it is. But if you look at, like, tribes that still live in a tribal manner where women are walking around without their shirt on, the men aren't just fucking tripping over themselves to, bone because there's boobs out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've created that by this cover up and this making it a mystery and making it something you have to gain and get to. We create that tension. So yeah, it is kind of fucked up that we.
Yeah. And meanwhile, there's all kinds of sexual assault that's happening in our military that's coming out, and they don't want to address it, and they are actively trying to cover up.
Which is why 90%, like, they say that almost probably, like, I don't know the actual numbers, but most of it goes unreported because they know it will do nothing. So
most of the sexual assault that happens in the military is against other men, though, right? You know that. Like, there's definitely sexual assault that happens against women, but most of the sexual assault that happens in the military is men on men.
I hadn't heard that. That must be pretty well obscured.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Why would you say something? Again, we're talking about a culture that, first off, I mean, you know, people like Orson Scott here, the whole gay is bad, right? But then you go into the culture of the military where it's all supposed to be strong men. Well, first off, you wouldn't want to report if you were the one who got sexually assaulted, right? Because then you're weak because you got sexually assaulted by a guy in your butt, right? And then if you're trying to report on somebody, then that would suggest that that guy might have proclivities, which would only bring further, you know, attacks. And if his buddies were cool to watch and let him do that, or you know what I mean, stand guard or whatever had to happen for that to happen, then no one's going to believe you if you come forward about it, right? I mean, that's kind of a prison mentality. If the prisoners are standing around watching the door while one guy rapes another guy, they aren't going to back you up if you try to tell on them, you know? So
yeah. And this stuff is happening in the book, like not so much with the sexual assault stuff, but, you know, if Ender goes to one of the higher ups, if he, you know, hides behind the brass or whatever, he's going to be seen as weak, and like nobody wants that. Ender doesn't want that. Graf doesn't want that. Want him to be doing that, and he's purposely making it tough on him in an environment where, you know, he will fail. He will kind of fail everybody if he is so weak as to go to one of the teachers or adults with his problems.
Right. And I mean, even though this is supposed to be in a military sense, I can definitely remember, like, and I think about it for kids even today, because like if something, say, was happening to one of my kids, I would definitely be like, hey, I want you to go to an adult and say something, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is, and the reality was when we were kids too, that when you go to an adult and say something, like even people that may have not had a problem with you before are going to be like, well, you're a tattletale, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you're further ostracized because you went to an adult and you didn't handle it yourself. Okay. I think it's interesting that since the implementation of zero tolerance policies, where I'm not saying kids should be able to fight with no consequence, right? Or that they should be able to beat each other up. But if a kid is getting beat up or attacked and decides to fight back, but then becomes suspended because they defended themselves, that puts them in a weird position where it's like, well, you can't defend yourself or you're going to get suspended, right?
Right.
Isn't it strange that since zero tolerance policies were enacted, suddenly now we have more kids that get to a point where they feel like there's no choice and they grab a gun and go to school and shoot a bunch of people up? Because that didn't happen prior to zero tolerance policies. So these kids are so fucking pent up at getting picked on, and that the only thing they can do is go to an adult. But if they go to an adult, they're just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. But they can't handle it themselves, because if they handle it themselves, they're going to get in trouble. They're pushed into a little fucking box, right? I mean, maybe not. I'm not saying that they shouldn't get in trouble if they get in a fight, but zero tolerance policies don't work for anything, by the way. Yeah. Zero tolerance crime policies don't work. Zero tolerance policies don't work ever.
Like, how many people in our generation had dads usually that told us, you know, if a bully tries to fight you want make sure you want to throw the first punch and hit him so hard that he doesn't get back up.
Mine wasn't to throw the first punch. I was told that if somebody hit me, make sure I was the one who hit last. That was what I was told. So I never got into a fight in school that didn't start with me getting hit first. I never started the fight. I would wait until I got hit, and then it was on, though. Yeah, and I remember, because it was about middle school when the zero tolerance policies came in. I got in a few fights in elementary school, right? And it would be a talk in the principal's office. Okay, get in trouble. Everybody's in trouble. Maybe I had detention. No big deal. But then I got into a couple of fights later on, and in middle school, I got into a fight, and I got in-school suspension for a week. And then I just kind of stopped because it was, you know, I didn't fight back after that, right? So I would just get picked on and picked on. And I mean, I was an angry fucking kid who didn't feel like I could tell adults what was going on because I felt like I'd just get picked on more. And I didn't feel like I could do anything about the getting picked on, culminating at a point where I got jumped after school, outside of the school, because they knew that nothing would happen to him then because we weren't under the school rules anymore, So, yeah, I think it's interesting that zero tolerance policies come in and then, it's just been a continuous growth of these violent acts at schools that are way too much of a reaction.
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think it's the zero tolerance policy. I think it's just the changing of culture. And you said it. In elementary, yeah, you got a talking to because you were still very young. In middle school, you're older. They expect you to have a different way of thinking, even though you're still a child. And so there's going to be more punishments for things like that. And the way I was raised is if someone tries to fight you, you tell an adult. And that adult will take care of it because they're an adult. And so I did not care that I was, I will still like cover my ass, being like, oh, the manager said I was supposed to do this. As a little kid, someone tried to fight me, I would go to an adult, they would stop it. And yeah, they might make fun of me for going and telling on them or whatever, but you know what? They never messed with me again because they knew I would do it again. So I just, that worked for me, telling an adult, and yeah, it stopped. I did get picked on, but it never turned into a fight. It was just like, oh, you're fat, you got glasses. Yeah, I am fat. I do have glasses. I'm still smarter than you. So
the trick is make it not fun for them to continue.
Yeah, basically.
Take away their enjoyment of the act.
Going to an adult never successfully worked for me.
Well, I'm sorry that you had a terrible time.
That's not an uncommon experience, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, anyhow.
All right.
But yeah, so he's in Salamander Army, but they are not letting, his commander will not let him do anything in the battles. So he watches and learns strategies that he can use in the future.
He's watching the battle go on. He's nitpicking or analyzing the strategies used by his army and the opponent's army. Mostly Bonzo's strategies. Just kind of shaking his head at everything he's doing, basically.
Yeah, because Bonzo's strategies are not very good.
He's more interested in keeping control of his people than actually having a winning strategy to counter the opponents.
Right. It's more that I'm the boss feeling than anything.
Mm-hmm. And he won't let Ender, he tells Ender to wait 4 minutes before even entering the battle room and just stay by the door and not fire your weapon because you are nothing and you're not going to help anyway. So technically you have to be there. So that's all you're going to do is just be there.
So yeah, they go through this whole battle and Ender does exactly what he was told. He doesn't shoot. He just stays out of the way and he gets shot and damaged, but he wasn't destroyed. So when when the other team wins, they see that there's still a soldier that was active and it was Ender. And Ender's
right, and he could have stopped him.
Yeah, I could have done it, but
he could have at least made it a draw instead of a victory.
Right.
Because to win these battles, you have to have 4 soldiers press their helmets against the panel of the opposing team's doorway, and then 1 other soldier go through the doorway, and that's what ends the game. And Ender is the last man standing on his team and is watching this all happen as 5 of the opponent's guys are doing this, and he could have taken enough of them out to make it a draw instead of a loss for Salamander.
But Bonzo's way too proud for that. But when the other soldiers look at him and ask why he didn't shoot, he just replies, I obey orders. And Bonzo's so proud, even after this, he says, the order still stands. Don't you forget it. So Ender's like, yeah, you're going to keep losing. But okay. But because of what happened, Ender actually ends up being the leader of the scoreboard because though he didn't shoot anybody, he also didn't get shot. He didn't die. So
yep, he's got a perfect record. One
right.
battle, no deaths.
Which makes him look better than he actually is at this point.
And he's still practicing with Petra, and more of the launchies are joining in with him. Then he has to do some battles with Salamander, but they were easy battles, and he just did what he was supposed to do. Didn't do anything. Ender turns 7, but wasn't a big thing at battle school because it's just a number. But he did get a new uniform because he was older, but it was strange and loose. Like his skin no longer fit properly. It did make him think about home and Valentine a little bit, so he was a little bit sad, but he remembered that the only reason he was here so that a bugger wouldn't shoot out Valentine's eye, won't blast her head open like the soldiers in the video of the first battles with the buggers. And then there was another battle with Leopard Army. Leopard Army was new. They were really low in the standings.
Yeah, Ender he disobeys on this one.
Yep.
Same kind of situation as the first one.
Yep.
He's the last man standing, and this time he takes out a few of them and makes it a draw instead of a loss. Because he's decided that he's learned everything that he's going to learn from Bonzo Madrid.
Yeah, there's nothing to learn from this guy anymore. And Bonzo finally is able to trade him away.
But then Bonzo swung at him, caught his jaw with a vicious open-hand slap, so hard that it knocked Ender sideways into his bunk and he almost fell. Then Bonzo slugged him in the stomach. Bonzo, you disobeyed me, loudly for all to hear. No good soldier ever disobeys.
Good soldiers follow orders.
But Ender just, it's crazy how, like, weirdly demented he is. Because at this point he says he could not help but take vengeful pleasure in the murmurs he heard rising through the barracks. You aren't enforcing discipline, you're destroying it. They know I turned your defeat into a draw, and now they see how you repay me. So basically, somebody did something good, and they're punished for it. What do you think the other members of your squad are going to learn from that?
Yeah,
not fuck up again or they'll get hit. That's what you learn.
Yeah, yes.
It's probably the best lesson you'll ever learn.
Follow orders even if it means you lose.
Yeah, or you'll get hit.
It's a great lesson. Yeah, or you get hit.
Or you get hit. It's the only form of discipline that actually works.
Corporal punishment.
Corporal punishment. It's the only one.
So yeah, Ender leaves the barracks, but he doesn't take anything with him. He has no possessions.
Yeah, because at this point, again, they're just basically, they are possessions at this point, and nothing they have is theirs.
And so he uses one of the public desks in the game room to register for an Earth Gravity Personal Combat course. So, self-defense.
Yeah, so he can fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he didn't plan to get vengeance, but he did intend that no one would ever do that to him again.
Which is the point of learning how to fight.
Yep.
I mean, if you're doing it right, it's to be able to defend yourself, because the reality of the world is not everybody's so nice.
And that's up to chapter 8, you guys.
Yep.
We got through 4 more chapters.
Right. With the chapters in this book, though, I mean, there's only like 15 chapters, 14 or 15 chapters in this book.
Yeah, they're very, very long.
Each chapter gets longer and longer as you go.
Well, and if you look in the actual book, there's little stopping points throughout the chapters, too.
Right.
Yeah, so it is still digestible, but as far as chapter numbers go, or numbered chapters go, they get quite more substance to them.
Indeed.
And this is a very substantial book.
Yes.
Like we are having a hard time summarizing things because there's so much that happens and so much to talk about.
There is a lot that goes on, right? And I don't want to get so lost in summarizing that we aren't going off and talking about other things that go along with it, like thoughts and analysis to what's going on, because we aren't just trying to tell the story here, obviously. We're also trying to have some conversation that isn't somebody else's thoughts.
We're not a review podcast. We are more of we sell ourselves as a book club, and book clubs have discussions on the topics that come up in these books.
Right.
So,
and they talk about the parts they like and what happened, and there you go.
And they get caught up in tangents and conversations, and it makes for a good time. I've never been a part of a book club before, but I imagine that they go something like this. So
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never been a part of an official one. So.
Right.
I mean, other than this one, obviously.
Yep.
Right. And it's our book club, so we can do whatever the fuck we want with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
I mean, you associate book clubs with like housewives that have nothing else to do, right? They're not going to talk about books the same way we're going to talk about books.
Well, that's what we're missing. Vodka and Valium, guys.
Ooh, make this a real book club party.
Right.
I mean, if you want to hear it on vodka, just slow it down to, 0.5?
Yeah, 0.5 speed. You can hear what it sounds like if we were drinking vodka. Takes a little longer to listen to, but it's monumentally more hilarious.
We have kind of a natural slur to our voices.
Each one of us, yeah.
Being Midwestern boys as we are.
Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for part 2 of Ender's Game, you guys.
yeah, Andy, I don't think we got to the end of the book.
Nope, we didn't get to the end of the book, so I still got some time to finish it.
So, yeah. But, well, guys, I thought this was pretty good this week. And
Productive
anybody got any
discussion.
shout-outs, any plugs, anything like that going on?
We don't have anything in the mailbox, but I did just before we started this recording tonight. I've been talking on Twitter via DMs with the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast.
Oh, God, yes.
Where a bunch of dudes from Florida talk about the stories of Florida Man and all Florida Man's antics.
Nice.
Excellent.
As well as some historical stuff around Florida. Like I listened to an episode today of their podcast. They actually sound really great. I like their discussion. They talked about the Fountain of Youth.
I'll have to check it out.
Yep,
Yeah.
They've been going for a couple years now. But yeah, that's the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. And they said that they're going to do a review exchange with us for Apple Podcasts. So
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
shout out to those guys.
Thanks, guys.
And
Yeah, thank you.
shout out to any of you other listeners who want to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would really help us out.
On our subreddit, I started I stickied a comment thread so that you can post your book suggestions. So that's right at the top of our page.
Oh
if you
yeah,
go to
that's
our
another thing
subreddit.
I wanted to talk about is we in the future want to do a chapter on listener suggested books. So get in touch with us via email, Twitter, our subreddit, our Facebook, and let us know a book that you want us to cover and discuss, and we'll incorporate it into our future chapter on listener submitted requested books. We've already had a couple, but we're gonna need a couple more to make a whole chapter of it. So get those in, ladies and
And if you
germs.
happen to have a favorite choose your own adventure book, we'll take those
Ooh.
too, because we do those.
Yes.
As well.
Yep, our next one is coming up.
Pretty soon. Right
Mhm.
after My Teacher is an Alien, right?
Yes.
Yep, I mean, we've got over half of Ender's Game to get through, and then My Teacher is an Alien.
Yeah, and realistically, again, like Ender's Game is basically mostly battles from here on out. So,
Yeah, a lot of the future of Ender's Game is going to be covered in how his battles go as he progresses in his battle school career, and that's a large chunk of the remaining part of the book. There's also a lot of other stuff that's going to spark some interesting conversation that happens kind of in the background, and then there's like a last act of the book that I have yet to read, but basically happens after he gets out of battle school. So that's the future of our Ender's Game coverage.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to do it for part 2 of Ender's Game. Thanks for listening to ReLiterated. We are the Chocolate Milk Friends. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to share it with your friends and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Google Podcasts, or any podcatcher app that pulls from these sources, and give us your reviews and ratings on whatever platform you use, especially if you like us, because it helps us grow. And don't forget, support your local library. They're opening up all around. I know the one in Midland where I live is finally opening up its doors.
Yeah, I'm thinking the next time I go to get a book, I might actually go grab one from the library, because I've been getting them on my Kindle, but there is something about that page, the actual physical book.
I bought Ender's Game because I was like, this book is awesome. I want the physical form.
Yeah. As much of a a character as Mr. Card is, he does have kind of, I've been reading that he's got kind of a philosophy of trying at least to keep theology out of fiction, whatever, but that only happens to an extent or whatever. But I do want to read on in the series, and he apparently is still writing in this series. Like he's got more in this timeline that's going to be released later this year, actually.
It's another state of, I mean, there comes a point where you have to separate art from artists for the most part. I mean, you know, you're always going to end up finding out that person that wrote something or made something that you love, turns out they aren't the perfect person that you hope they are. And the story that they made or the song or whatever it be that is it stands on its own. It's its own thing, you know.
And there's always a way to ingest these works without spending a dime towards them. So
right.
I'm gonna be honest. This is the first book I bought. Every other one I got from the library.
Mm-hmm. So I guess if you like the artist, feel free to support them. If not, if you like the art but not the artist, you know,
buy it used like I did.
Buy it used is a great way to do it, and you can do that at thriftbooks.com like I do,
or Half Price Books, which is where I got Ender's Game.
Oh, or Half Price Books, yeah. But yeah, support your local used bookstore as well. Those are definitely worthy businesses to put your money into. So yeah, this outro has been going on for a while, so we're gonna sign off. Catch us next time for part 3 of Ender's Game. Until then, give a shit, read some lit.
Good night, everyone. This has been fun. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
I tried to nail them all.
Senor Gran Fedor.
Yeah, Senor Gran Fedor.
You had to get that thank you.
Yeah, you had to do the thank you, and I was just waiting for it. So I was like, I already know I'm going with Spanish because my phone is not near me because of the incident earlier that they don't know about.
Aquí nosotros hablamos español.
Oh man, yeah, I was like, the thank you. If you notice, there was a pause for the thank you. I'm like, wait, there was another one I was going to say.
Oh yeah, I was gonna steal Josh's sign off.
But that way, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to cut down the number of things he could say that would be different.
Again, I'm gonna just start using my weird I know very little foreign languages, but what I do know, I usually know thank you. So
you think it's a good idea to give me that tactic?
I'm just not gonna tell you which languages I know. Duh.
There's only so many that you're possibly going to use.
Unless I look them up right before we do it. Oh,
what if I look them all up? What if I say 10 different languages before I sign off?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to make up my own language.
Yeah. Ook lak look.
Bibbidi bop.
There you go.